Hello. I'm drinking some stuff that I don't normally drink. Sierra Nevada Hot Bullet Double IPA. I don't believe I've ever had this one. They've been making it for a few years now. Um, on their website, they were like saying you double down on the Magnum hops for this West Coast hitter. But the thing is, it has some haze in it. There's some sediment on the bottom. I kind of stirred it up. And then they use lupulin powder, or dust they call it on here. And the IBUs are 55. It looks like it's pretty pale. It's got Idaho 7 hops. It has oats and wheat. I feel like it's definitely them trying to look for somewhere between a West Coast and with some East Coast influences. Maybe not in between, but let's see. I got a variety pack because it's just so cheap. Sierra Nevada is amazingly inexpensive. And this pack wasn't too old. This bottle is like less than a month and a half old. And so Sierra Nevada, all their beers are going to be fine at that age. They probably all stay good, for almost 2-3 months. So yeah, you can see that's very pale. I'm just going to pour it all in here. Oh, and spill. Got to spill too, of course. I'm not used to these 12-ounce bottles. They're so difficult to pour. I don't know what the rating of this is online, but there's a whole bunch of C hops. It's Centennial, Crystal, Cascade, Chinook, Magnum. Almost might as well be an old-fashioned C hop, but then Idaho 7, which is interesting. And then they use pale malt and acidulated caramelized malts. Caramelized malts is a very vague term. And then there some oats and wheat there at the end. And 55 IBUs is very low for anything being called a West Coast IPA. You can probably see in the camera, it's got a little bit of haze to it. It's almost as hazy as some like Foldy Brothers beers. Very big in the carbonation. Very nice head. Even though it was sedimented, I'm pretty positive that this is not bottle condition, but the carbonation looks pretty good. Can't even fit the whole bottle in this. Their yeast is actually, even though we talk about Chico yeast, Sierra Nevada yeast being so, flavorless, I definitely noticed this apricot-y type thing in their yeast strain that almost, in some ways, it reminds me of Alchemist, which doesn't seem right at all because they famously use, some weird descendant of an English ale yeast, but their yeast is definitely cleaner than a lot of the other yeasts that hazy brewers are using. Let's see if I can get all this in there. There we go. But yeah, they know how to get good head and retention for sure. And it's definitely hazier than regular pale ale from them, and that's just a pretty darn good looking beer. Just having these hop varieties in there does give you a lot of flavors and sensations of your more old-fashioned West Coast beer, but then it's a little bit, maybe not sweeter, but just less caramelized dark malts that create the illusion, or they underline the sweetness in a beer. And it's not very bitter at all. That also will make it seem sweeter. Only 55 IBUs. Mouth feels pretty nice, kind of silky. And right after you take a sip, it has that resinous punch. Kind of piney, very spicy. Just your old-fashioned hop flavor and feel. Pretty intensely hoppy, especially in comparison to the regular pale ale. But very different from like Torpedo. Torpedo is a lot darker than this. And even though it uses Citra, it's a lot more bitter, I'm pretty sure. I haven't had it in a while, maybe I'll do a review. But the nose on this is not doing much for me. It's like sort of citrusy or tropical. They don't even say anything on here about, they say no flavors on here. They just talk about it. They say hop flavor and aroma. Like the lupulin powder is just giving a generic candy sort of flavor that's mixing with the very subtle esters from their yeast strain that's just kind of not doing much for me. It doesn't really smell that hoppy in the nose. But on the tongue, it is. It has a pretty nice feel. And it seems pretty bitter right when you get on your tongue and then you swallow it. It's pretty spicy. It's just a different character of bitterness you get from these different hops. But it fades pretty quickly. This is why I don't buy a lot of these mass-produced double IPAs, is because they just lack a lot of character. They're made well. This beer is made very well. It's not oxidized at all. It has a good feel. It has good head retention. But there's just not a lot of strong, specific hop flavors popping out at me. It's not very fruity. It's not very dank. Like, the nose is just not much at all. Like, it would take me a while to drink this, even though it's not off-putting. It's just a little bit boring, characterless. I probably wouldn't recommend this. Give it a 3.25. I really don't understand how there's some people out there who still are into this sort of thing. I think this is better than anything that's super hazy. It looks actually a lot like Heady Topper, and Heady Topper is way better. Pliny the Elder is actually probably a little bit darker, and it's a lot clearer, and that one's of course way better. So it's like, I don't know. It's maybe pass on this one, or even I would say even maybe pass on the variety pack that has this. Even though the other beers in it are not bad, but I just don't understand. It's just boring. It's like you only ever go to Olive Garden and you never go to a good Italian restaurant or make pizza yourself or something. So that's it. Bye.